Hi there. Well, it's been a while since I've posted a video, so I wanted to at least put something up. This was something I was working on this weekend. It's early June, but not too early to start working on Santas. You can always carve Santas. But anyway, there's an article in here, and I always like this particular style of Santa. I think a few guys carve like this, but this one's Mark Gargak, it looks like, and so we did this article on how to carve this type of Santa with the kind of the lacy beard, which I like. And he shows splitting a piece of wood in half this way, and you carve the nose off the corner. So a lot of people have shown that, how to do that in tutorials. But I just wanted to really show you a jig that I did. Here's a block that I'm going to be working with. I made the mistake of buying some basswood on eBay. I've been buying it from Heineke and getting really good stuff, but this, look at this piece. This I split in half. This was a I think a 4x6 piece, and this is half of it, but look, this half is almost useless to me, so as opposed to getting a nice clear piece. So you got to watch what you buy on eBay, that's for sure. So I'm going to have to work around this. The problem is going to be, if you look at this, he's got a he uses like a wash for the finish, which is real nice, lets the wood grain show through. I'm going to be limited trying to do that with all these streaks in there, so that's a little bit of a problem. I may be forced to go with something a little more opaque. But I wanted to show you over here at the bandsaw. Here's a jig that I made. It's pretty straight ahead, just a block of wood, maybe a 1x6 or 1x8, whatever. And it needs to be long enough so that you can clamp it to your table, you know, and still have it under the blade. So I cut these 45-degree blocks and just put a couple of pieces of half-inch plywood here. You can use anything you have laying around, but this right here should be a 90-degree angle. That's what's really important, because your block is going to fit in there, and you can see that, you know, that'll cut this right in half. So I'm cut this far into it. Okay, so what I do is I simply, where's my blade? My blade there. Okay, so I slide this up so that I have enough to support my block going in and enough to support the end when it comes out. Okay, and then you can use a measuring tape to get this parallel, but all I do is I just make it parallel with this groove. And honestly, if I had this to do over again, if I make another one of these, I'll make this wider with a little stick underneath here, a strip that fits right in this groove, and then it'll line up perfectly. But right now I just visually line it up here. I clamp it to my saw on either side here, allowing room for this to go through. Now obviously I would use probably a much longer block, and the longer the safer, because as it comes out the other end, then you can reach around, you know, and grab it as it comes out. So basically, once this is in place, this is clamped down. Don't try to do it without it being clamped, by the way. And then you just cut right into it. This should hit right on the blade there. If we come around the other side, you can see how that's going to split it. Okay. And then as it comes through the other side, you know, do not try to push it through this way. You're going to come around, you know, and pull it through, so you're on the other side of that blade. And it works really well. And here's one. If you do it nice and slow and you have a sharp blade, that comes fairly smooth. So then what you would want to do is, maybe if you have a belt sander, I have this tool right here, which I love. It's a stationary belt sander, and I just put this on here and I sand that down so it's nice and flat on the back. But a lot of that's going to get carved away anyway. If you look farther in the article, you can see that the back is going to get carved out. So here's a couple that I started over the weekend. Here's one, and you can see I've already shaped the back, and what I did was, I did this just on the belt sander. I just took it like this, you know, and rounded it, and all these little parts here that you can see, all these right here, up here on the top, that was all just done on the belt sander, just getting it, you know, roughed out. Actually, even here, I put, you know, on the round part of it. So if you have a regular belt sander, you can just turn that upside down, maybe put it in the vise, and that works for that. So anyway, then the next thing I did was I started the nose, and I started this part up here for the hat. So that's the first thing you want to establish. The article shows how to do that. But you start the nose, you do the eye sockets, I've indicated where the mustache is going to go. And here's one that I finished, well, pretty much finished over the weekend. And what's nice about it is in the article he shows all different styles of the hat. You can make the tassel on the left, on the right. You can change the way the mustache, it can curve up this way or it can kind of go more down. Okay, so there's one. Here's another one, but this one you can see now I've got that big streak of black in there. That was the decayed part in that wood. So now I don't think I want it to look like he's a you know, something in a horror movie with a big giant scar, so I'm going to probably have to paint fairly opaque over that to cover that, so which is fine because I like that kind of finish, but here I've tried to carve most of it away. Now you could use whatever tools you like. You could follow the directions in the article and so forth. What I've used here are pretty much these tools. This is a kind of a standard heavy-duty utility blade. Usually you'll find it looks like this. It's a pretty heavy blade. It's basically just an all-purpose kind of a box knife. It's kind of a heavier duty version of this. I guess you could use it for just about everything. The blade is very thick on this, so you're not going to get a super fine blade on this, but for roughing, I love this thing, and I shaped it this way. I happen to like this curved shape on there, and you can see it's pretty well polished up. So, you know, I shaped it and buffed it up pretty nice. And when I want to just really, you know, hog off big pieces of this thing, you know, I use a blade like this. So, and I don't have to really worry at all about how much pressure I put on that. I have this lion's knife, which is a similar sized blade, if you look, but this is really thin. This is super thin. And if I tried to lob off big pieces and I started getting a little overly ambitious and tried to take off big pieces, I could actually break this blade very easily. So I'm careful with that. That is actually still kind of a finishing knife. So I use this blade to do a lot of my my roughing. And then once I get it down for the back, here where it's hollowed out, I actually used this number 5 Denny scoop. That's good to get in there. Take a lot of that off. You can see on a piece like this in the back there, I want to hollow it out. So, you know, I can just really do it with this. I'm not going to do too much. I'll have a glove on. And then here's a number 7, a deeper one in case you want to do even more. And I also use this one for going cross grain here to scoop this out. Because if I try to go down this way, I'm going to hit into the grain. I got to go this way into the grain. When I stop, I'll get kind of a mess in there. So, and even up in here under the cap, this type, I can just, when it's sharp, I can just go right across the grain with it. And I pull up as I'm coming out, so I get a nice, you know, and I kind of slice across the grain with it. Okay, so this is a good hollowing out roughing knife, or gouge, sorry. This little guy right here, which I use all the time, it's about a 1/4 inch, but it's got that little bit of a rounded corner in it. This is a Denny tool also. This is the one that's great for the eye sockets. It's great for, you know, getting this part just sort of set in. Right? I might want to articulate that a little more with a V, but also around the mustache, down in here, you know, to get the bottom of the mustache, I'll use this tool. And then I'll also use this for my basic carving of the beard here. And then you can go to a deeper, more articulated V if you want. But what I like to do is I will use this knife right here, which is about looks like about 1 1/4 inches, 1.5 inches, but very thin finishing knife. And what I'll do is I'm just taking it like this, okay, and then the other way, and I'm just cutting on an angle there and cutting my V out. And that's what I'm doing to articulate this. And for here, I just kept going and going until I could kind of get through. Eventually, once I break through, I carefully push the blade through so I can see on the other side, and then I can start undercutting it from the back. You don't have to worry about it too much. You're just kind of scooping it out there. So you could also come through the other side with the V tool, you know, to try to get it so it breaks through, if you want to go with this kind of lacy look here where it cuts through. If you are going to do, I would suggest you do 3 or 4 places in there so it doesn't look wrong that you just did one. In this one, I'm actually going to use that to try to get rid of some of this decayed part. But what I have to watch out for here is that if you've ever dealt with it, you should know that decayed knot in there, or whatever that is really, really hard and kind of stone-like. So you don't want to use a very delicate thin blade like this or a detail blade, because you'll just break it off. So I'll use a heavier duty blade there. I'll even use, a Stanley knife. This one's not sharp. It's been used for tar paper. So, and just try to get that out as much as I can until I can get down to some wood, and then I can slice it out. So I may try to cut as much of this out as I can, and get not prying it. Don't pry it out, you'll break your blade. So okay, and then this little guy right here, which I love, another lion's knife, super sharp, and I like this little upturn detail knife here, about 3/4 of an inch, and that's what I'll use for my eyes. Okay, and around here, around the nose, all this work I use this little guy right here. For the nose, right there, I'm actually using a small dockyard 5mm gouge, and I get in there with that, coming in like this. And that's about it. That's the list of tools for this thing. And then once I finish these up, I'll probably give them a nice little paint job. I'm going to start with a wash and work my way up to see if I can, cover some of that. If I have to go more opaque here. If it looks just like a gray streak, that's fine too. Maybe I'll paint some gray in there and try to cover it up. But like I say, I may have to put multiple layers of paint just to get rid of that detail. On this one, I think I'll be okay. So I'll take this over eventually to the flap sander. I'm almost done. A little more detailing in here. I want to get a little more detail, a couple more lines on the face there, and we'll be good to go.